Thank you guys for coming. So I know that this is one of the new trainings that we were supposed to have for this semester. I know that we had already a training beforehand, but this is just extra information for the different phases, and I wanted to introduce what the plan was. Once again, I'm Ms. Montoya. I'm doing my practicum. I'm helping the administration, Ms. Rodriguez especially, and of course Ms. Solis, who is in charge of the English Language Arts Department. And so for this one, guys, for this training that we're going to have, it's the SBHS Campus Improvement Project. And of course, we're going to talk about 3 different things. The English to Data, which of course, we are the ones in charge of the English to Data. I know we have English 1 retesters, but we have a different plan for them. And so of course, we're just going to focus on the English 2 sophomores, in other words. We're going to have an action plan, and I gave you handouts, which we're going to be discussing later on. And then progress monitor sheets, which will be implemented after this training. And so of course, I'm going to show you, I'm going to give you an example, and then I'm going to email them later on today so that you guys can receive them and start using them for the classroom. So before I start all of that, I want you guys to understand that just like there's teacher standards that we have to look into, and I know we have the English course standards and so on and so forth, there's also principal standards. So whenever a principal or an administrator does something, of course it's to help the campus, the teachers, the staff, the students, the community, but there's standards that we have and that any administrator has, and that explains and kind of guides us as to why we're doing things like that. So it's not just for any reason that an administrator does something. And so this specific plan, this specific project, we kind of have 2 different, and I'm going to explain them just so that you guys have an idea. And so there's 2 specific ones, which is C2, and it's prioritizes instructions and student achievement by understanding, sharing, and promoting a clear definition of high quality instruction based on best practices from recent research. So just like we encourage teachers to be researching new strategies, going on to trainings, we also have to do that. So as principals, it's not just I'm your boss, you're the teacher, you have to do what I say. It's more like an instructional leader. In other words, we're supposed to be helping you. So I'm also supposed to be going to trainings, I'm also supposed to be researching, I'm also supposed to be doing strategies, and I'm also supposed to be sharing with you guys. And in this case, not just the English department, but every other content, and of course every other elective classes that we're supposed to be doing. So for C8, it monitors and ensures staff uses multiple forms of student data to inform instruction and intervention decisions to maximize instructional effectiveness and student achievement. Now, I'm pretty sure you guys remember when you were in college and you guys were taking your educational courses. Back in the day, especially the history of education, they talked about how teachers back in the day, they didn't need any certification. They would just, I'm a girl, I can teach, this is what I'm going to do, and that's it. And so everything was just based out of emotions because you wanted to help the kids, and it was an estimate. I'm just going to do this because this is kind of nice, just teach them read, write, and that's it. But of course, there's an evolution in education, an evolution in those courses, and now of course we have so many requirements, so many things we have to do. And so one of the things that guides us, or is supposed to be guiding us, is data. It's not just to bore you guys, but it's also for you guys to understand. So where are we coming from? Why are we asking you to do this? Well, the data shows that these are our weaknesses and these are our strengths. So if these are our strengths, then of course we're going to be able to continue doing what we're doing. So we're doing perfect there. But in our weaknesses, we have to be able to work on those areas, not just for the semesters, right? And then of course for the next years. So we have to look at different data, which of course we'll discuss. Now, I know I said the C1, C2, but this is just a broader understanding of the principal standards. So there's 5 standards, and of course there's sub-standards in each one. And so once again, just so that you guys see, you guys have the T-test, there's the P-test for principals, how administrators are evaluated. So the standard 1 would be instructional leadership. So the principal is responsible for ensuring every student receives high-quality instruction. So we have to make sure that teachers, whatever curriculum we adopt, whatever basic guide, whatever resources, they have to be of high quality, and that they help the students. It's not just, oh, this looks pretty or this looks cheaper. No, there has to be reasoning behind them. So standard 2 is just human capital. The principal is responsible for ensuring there are high quality teachers and staff in every classroom in the school. And so the teachers are supposed to be the best teachers, not just in the district, but in the campus, And if there's some teachers that need help, of course we're going to try to help the teachers in whatever it is that they need, whether it's classroom management or just doing something else. Standard 3 is executive leadership. So the principal is responsible for modeling a consistent focus and personal responsibility for improving student outcomes. So we have to be models just like for students, also for teachers. And standard 4 is school culture. The principal is responsible for establishing and implementing a shared vision and culture of high expectations. And then, of course, strategic operations. So the principal outlines and tracks clear goals, targets, strategies aligned to a school vision that improves teacher effectiveness and student outcomes. And so every single standard kind of intertwines. And I just wanted you guys to show that. For example, if students are not doing well academically, then even the school morale is going to go down. Not just as teachers, because we're going to be thinking, well, what are we doing wrong? And of course, it's not just us to blame. Some of the kids also have to take responsibility with their actions, but we also have to change that atmosphere. And then of course we have those kids that, not that they don't care, but maybe they struggle. So how can we change that mentality of the kids and even the parents? Because of course we have some parents, unfortunately, that no, I don't want my kid to go to college. No, my kid needs to drop out and they need to start working off the house now. And so we have to kind of change that school culture and of course hopefully influence, as we're changing the school culture, also the community, and hopefully our community will be a better community for our children, our great-grandchildren, and so on and so forth. And then operations, well, what are the goals and what are we doing to improve that? So there's something that we use, and I know that sometimes we get teacher feedback, and even I'm learning, I'm not going to say I'm an expert, but it's called a need statement, and it's pretty self-explanatory and straightforward. In other words, what does the school need? What are the needs of the school? What are the needs of the teacher? What are the needs of the student? And we have to kind of think as a whole. And so after reviewing the December English 2 student data for fall 2019, the reason why we're not using benchmark scores is because as a school, as a campus, we have semester blocks. So I just want to clarify that. Of course, we know that we have 90-minute block classes, and so we have the fall semester, we have the spring semester. Fall would be from August to December. After December break, we have the spring semester, and then of course from January, whenever we come back, all the way into May. And since we have recent scores, we're going to use the recent scores, which of course would be the December English 2 student data. So it was demonstrated that the school had a 68 passing rate for first-time testers. We have to separate because we have the retesters and then we have the first-time testers. And so I wanted just to focus on those first-time testers. So this was just for the fall spring kids, because if a student didn't take an English course in the fall, then they can't test. But when they take the English 2 course, that's when they test. If it's a scheme period or a 60-minute class that they have the whole school year, even though they have the English class, and the fall semester, they don't test until the spring semester, until they have a better, more understanding of the class. So we have to wait. So we have more than likely more kids testing this semester. So although there was a 12% increase from last year's scores, the school needs to reach a 75 passing score to reach its campus improvement goal of helping students succeed at state assessment from our subpopulations to our general population. So one of the things I wanted to focus on is, I know at the very beginning of the school year, I don't know if you remember, we had to sit down as a department and they showed us the data, and I know even a couple of weeks ago they came and they showed us the data one more time. And so right now the school is rated as a B campus, but they want to reach an A campus. So first of all, I want to congratulate you because we went from a C to a B in 1 year. And so that is a great achievement, especially because we have not only the English 2 students, but we have a lot of English 1 retesters. So we have to target both. Of course, we have juniors and seniors included in that mix for those retesters. It's not just sophomores who have passed the English 1 and English 2. So I do want to congratulate you guys, because as a teacher, I know what you guys do. It's not easy, it's not simple. We have a lot of things to do, a lot of pressure that we have, and so I wanted to congratulate you. But now there's even more pressure, because since we did really good and there's an increase and we're showing student growth, now they want that A. So now it's not sufficient a B, they want that A. But for us to get that A, while we did really good in some of the indicators don't count for us because of logistics, right? The only one that really matters, quote unquote, or the one that's going to help us increase to that A will be the student achievement indicator. And so that indicator will only happen if we reach that 75% goal. If we have more, of course, that's a lot better, but if we have less, we won't reach that, and we will stay with that B. Now, not only that, I know last time, the last training we had, we talked about RTI kids and lab students, so we focused that action plan on them, but this is more of the general population. So some of the activities would be for RTI kids, lab kids, SPED kids, but most of them could be used even for general population. That way we don't discriminate, that way some of the kids don't ask, well, why does she get it and I don't? Or vice versa, why do I get it and he or she doesn't get it? So we kind of just have everyone do it. One of the things I do want to point out later on is our special education population for ELA. We really have to pay attention to them, especially the lab students, because we really have a red flag on them. So the state is already telling us that we're not doing so well with them. They want to see more passing for them. So we have, in other words, for lab students, when they come, depending on the years, they can get waivers, and that's fine. But the state doesn't want to see a lot of waivers. They want to see that the kids try on the test and that they pass on the test. But the campus right now is doing a lot of waivers, and then the same thing with SPED kids or special education kids. They test sophomore year 2 times, if they go to summer, 3 times, junior year again 3 times if they go to summer school, and then senior year they test again 2 times. But then if they still don't pass, what they're doing is, again, they're waiving that test and they're meeting participation, which of course for us is great because they graduate, but for the state, once again, that's a red flag. They don't want to see a lot of meeting participation. They want to see that the students are actually passing the exam, that they're up to par. And so we're going to focus on that also. Now, the campus improvement plan, guys, it is a 120-page or so document. It is a living, breathing, active document. And I was not going to put you up to read a 120-page document. You don't have to, I can give you the link if you want to. If you want to have a reading, if you can't sleep at night and you just, what can I do? Let me read the campus improvement plan. I could do that. But I thought it was just best if I just focus on the goals and the objective where we are targeting with this action plan and with this project. So I just kind of copy and pasted it from the campus improvement plan. But just to let you know, the campus improvement plan is, they get all the scores from algebra, history, English, they get student populations, they get how many teachers, teacher retention, they get everything, every single detail they get. That's why they ask you to have a master's, not just for the stipends, but they need that data. And so towards the end, they update that campus improvement plan. So they check, for example, for the mission statement. And the vision statement, are we meeting our goals? If not, should we change our mission and vision, or is this okay? Of course, that's how it starts. We have to change numbers. So if maybe last year we had 2,200 kids, but now we have 2,100 students, okay, now we have to change that. I mean, there's just so much into it. But towards the end, after they put all this data, they have to put goals for the school. So in this next year, these are the goals we have. Are we going to meet them? And so that's why I'm explaining it. The first goal is San Benito High School will increase the academic achievement for all students and close the performance gap between subpopulations, which is what I was talking about. So the subpopulations, once again, would be the RTI, lab, SPED kids, etc. Now specifically, there's objectives to each goal, and so performance objective 6 are 2019. San Benito High School will increase the STAR English to EOC scores for all demographic and special population students by 10% from the previous year. And so of course we did 12% for this semester, but now we need this next one, and so we have to get that average with this one and then the average out. So if we do really bad in the spring, then it doesn't matter that we did 12% because it's going to go down. But if we do well, then it's going to increase. So we have to also make sure we check that. And then some of the evaluation data they evaluate us would be like the taper report. Just like students get a report card, the school gets a report card towards the end. The state gives them a report card. So how well are you doing or how bad are you doing? So once again, the campus improvement plan, they stating goal 1, performance objective 6. By 2019, San Benito High School will increase the STAR English 2 EOC scores for our demographic and special population students by 10% from the previous year. Although it states the set timeline is 2019, this goal and objective is an ongoing goal and process for the school, hoping to achieve and even surpass the goal. With this project and action plan, we're working to achieve that goal by analyzing the data, determining needs, creating action plans with interventions, monitoring progress, and adjusting what is needed to ensure success in student growth and achievement. And so this is just, again, received from the campus improvement plan or the CIP. These are just SPED and LEP populations. And so at the very top, you have the overall 2018-2019, which of course is the past one. And there's just 3 things that matter. So this is a 3-year analysis for special populations. And if you see, you have the 2019, which is of course last year. And then you have approaches, meets, and masters. I know we have mathematics, science, and social studies, but of course we're just focusing on ELA. And so if you notice for this one, I don't know, but it has ELA 52% overall approaches, 30% for meets, 2% for masters. And so we have to increase the meets and masters. While the approaches is fine, that means if they pass the exam, we should really have them in meets because that's where there should be at grade level. And of course, masters is they're surpassing the grade level. Now for SPED specifically, that's just the overall. Now look at SPED. We have 13% approaches, 8% meets, and 4% masters. And these numbers are really low. And of course, we have to increase these numbers. And then of course, LEP. So language English proficient. So ELA, 22%, 5% meets, 0% masters. That 0 especially hurt us because we have to have some masters. And of course, increase our meets and approaches. Now, I understand. At least this is how I see it. This is just my opinion. If you have a kid in an English class for 1 semester and they just came maybe last year or 2 years, that's not enough. They need more time. Research says that if they don't even learn in Spanish to write and to read, how are they going to learn in their second language to read and to write? And so now we're pressuring them, to read and to write, expository, persuasive, and I need to do this, you need to do that, and so the kid, it's just too much for them. So I understand that. All we could do is, at least in my opinion, at least to help them increase, even if it starts with the Spanish language, and then from there go to the English language. If they pass the exam, great, but as long as we see student growth, at least I think we're meeting our goals or we're closing to meet that goal. Because we have to make sure the kid succeeds in life when they graduate, not just pass an exam. Because the exam after they graduate, well, what does that show? They could pass an exam, which is great, right? But I think we should also focus on that. So increasing their Spanish, increasing their English proficiency in reading and writing, and hopefully that's going to help us with the actual exam. And of course, the goal 1, and this is performance objective 1. So objective 6 was sub-pops. And still with the goal 1, by June 2019, 80% district-wise of all students with a concentrated effort in all special populations will meet established standards on the state assessment, which is once again a very, very high goal, 80% for them to meet approaches and meets and masters. But hopefully we can try to, if not reach it, at least come as close to it. Now, CIP, that's just campus improvement plan. Some of the problem statements that they mentioned, there's a lot of problem statements. I just put 2 because I think these are important. And so one of them is problem statement number 1. We have, of course, below state average performance in all EOC examinations, approaches, meets, and master levels. And then they have root causes, lack of systemic approaches, resources, and initiatives to support law-conforming states. So, of course, it's not just us that we're suffering for history and math, and of course English. So what happens in the CIP, they look at all the problems that we have, and they have to find a solution. So possible, that would be, of course, the root cause. And so one of them is that there's no systemic approaches. So one of the things we wanted to do is, with the TEKS resource system and with the pacing guides and the curriculum writing that they've been doing, some of the teachers and the English instructional specialists, hopefully we have a more coherent, more cohesive for English 2, 3, and 4. So whatever the English 2 teachers are doing, hopefully you're going to support the English 3 teachers. Whatever they're doing, it's going to support the English 4 teachers. So hopefully the kids don't lose skills or don't get confused for, well, I was doing this, or I'm not used to this, I didn't see this, which of course we know sometimes that's a lie. We've caught them on that, they're lying. So hopefully we are this year improving on that, and hopefully that helps our students. And then this one, the only one I wanted to point out was there's no campus initiatives for professional development, so that's where we're doing this. I know that last year one of the things that teachers gave feedback was they wanted to see more training, so that's why we have these trainings now, hopefully to help you with whatever you guys need, to provide you resources, or if you want to give us constructive criticism, feedback, just to let us know. And then of course this one, teachers are still not completely aware of how to desegregate data and analyze it for instructional purposes. It's one thing when a person says, I'm going to teach you, and then they go really fast. I didn't see the buttons when they were doing last semester. I was like, oh, I guess you did it for me. I didn't have to do it, which is great because we got the paperwork, but at the end of the day, how am I going to do it now? If that person is not here anymore, how am I going to do it?
Faculty students, just to let you know, we're sending Candy in the front office for a letter. Once again, we're sending Candy for a letter. Thank you.
So that's why we want to show you how to desegregate the data. So it's okay if someone does it for you, but we want you guys to know how to desegregate the data. So of course the purpose of this project and this part is to increase student achievement in statewide assessments so they are college and workforce prepared. So even if the students don't want to go to college, or they are thinking more on the workforce or even military, like a military career pathway, where they have to be prepared to enter the military, they have to take an exam, which I don't remember the name of the exam. That exam. And so of course if they don't pass it, that's going to hurt them. So even for the military, a lot of our kids think, oh, I just go to the military, that's it. I sign up and I'm ready. Oh no, there's an exam, so you have to take it to be able to enter and be placed. And of course, even for the workforce, to have college applications. I know when I was teaching seniors a couple of years ago in Ms. Vitela, towards the very end, had finished the curriculum, we seen here like 2 weeks, or like, okay, what are we gonna do? Ms. Vitela's like, okay, why don't we have them do a mini project where they're filling out work applications. So we actually printed McDonald's applications, Walmart applications. We just gave it to them just to see how well they were gonna do. And oh my gosh, they didn't know how to fill out applications. So Ms. Vidal and I had a heart attack. No, we had to go back and we had to get another one. We had to explain the boxes. And I'm not talking first name, last name, right? Obviously those are the easy ones. But all the other ones, like, what are your skills? And the kids, what are skills? What are you talking about? And so no. So even to fill out a work application, they have to know how to read that work application. What if they put something that it's not supposed to? And so now the boss is like, oh, no, I'm not going to get this kid. And I'm pretty sure this kid doesn't know what they're doing. And so we have to make sure they're prepared for everything. And so some of the goals that we have in this project is use data such as the December English 2 scores and the formative assessment scores, or the CFAs, of course the benchmark included, to analyze ways to improve student assessment scores, which emphasizes heavily reading, writing, and critical thinking skills. That figure 19B, guys, that continues to hurt us. We have to look at the data and see all of those reading standards, those writing standards, and of course figure 19B. So we have to divide the root cause analysis for English 2 star assessment to determine what standards and categories are the weakest. So we have to look at standards and categories. What is it that we need? Again, I know since the beginning, the strengths, we're just going to continue doing what we have to do, but of course the weaknesses, what are we going to do to target these weaknesses? So work with mentor to examine weaknesses and the underlying causes for these gaps. So I'm just going to be part of a facilitator. So whatever you guys want, I know I'm going to talk to the head of department, Ms. Bunch. Of course, she's the head of department. And then of course, whatever we decide, but I want your feedback, then I'm going to talk with Ms. Rodriguez and then of course with Ms. Ruiz. So this has been pre-approved, so we wanted to see what you guys say. So later on, just write down whatever you guys want and I'll pick them up later. And then create and implement action plans to help students increase any areas of weakness. Of course, reading comprehension, that's one of our biggest ones right now. They know how to read really fast. They read and it sounds perfect and beautiful, but when you ask them, well, what did you just read? I don't know. Where did you read it to read? I don't know. I read it. Like, why are you asking me? Don't ask me, ask her. And so, of course, we don't want that. It's not just a matter of you know how to read. Yes, great. So you learned that in elementary, but now you need to tell me what did you read. I need you to tell me what did you read. Which, of course, summarizing would just be one of the skills. You need more. So the project description is this. The plan is to help improve English 2-star scores by analyzing data, creating and approving an action plan, assessing students with formative assessments, monitoring progress, adjusting interventions, and achieving our set goals. And of course, this plan has 3 phases with set deadlines and action steps. And so there's phase 1, we analyze the data and determine the needs. There's phase 2, train teachers and student progress track sheet and approve action plan, which is where we are. And then phase 3 is going to be all the way in towards the end of the semester. We're going to make sure that you guys implemented the action plan, and I'm going to talk to each and every one of you, and then of course in department meetings to see how you guys are doing, if you guys need any help. So phase 1, the implementation would be January 24 to 27, to analyzing data and determining needs, to review December English 2-star assessment data and current CFA results. So I know we've had December scores, we've had CFA 1, we had CFA 2 last week, and I think the next one is the actual benchmark. And then after that, we'll go from there. So we're going to have to analyze each and every one of them. If the students increase, if the students decrease, what are we doing? If the students are stagnant, how can we kind of take them away from there? Discuss results with administrator and ELA teachers, so both ways. With teachers to segregate data for all the campus, ELA department, teacher report, individual student report, which is funded at Euphoria. So as a department, we get to see how we're all doing, where we're low, and then as a teacher, then I want to see not just how you are all doing, I want to see how my kids are doing, my classes are doing, as each class, and then of course individually. How is Panchito doing and how is Maria doing? Which of course these reports aren't at Euphoria. Identify the root cause analysis of December ERC scores as well as the most recent formative assessment CFA. With root cause analysis, determine students' weaknesses and interventions for each standard. And then for phase 2, which is implementation January 31. Phase 2, with the student assessment scores and the root cause analysis, discuss with the ELA department the information that was discovered. Train teachers for student-friendly goal tracking sheets, setting expectations and deadlines. If necessary, assist ELA teachers in creating individual student progress report folders that include student previous test scores and a progress monitoring chart. Collaborate with teachers for intervention strategies and goals for as a department and individually. And so these are just some of the sources that we have. Of course, we have a lot more. We have the series workbooks, measuring up workbooks, novels, language live, ingenuity, common lit, news, ELA, already Nearpod, and there's a lot more. These are just some of the novels, right? Of course, if you talk with Ms. Briones, she has a list already of class sets and novels that they have that we can use. And I know she also has stored the ELA books, so there's a lot of books there, guys, that you can talk to. I know I'm always bothering her, and I'm always asking her. I change every semester when I do novels, so we have that. And then of course when I was talking to you about the ongoing implementation and continuous monitoring, phase 3, to meet with English language arts teachers approximately every 3 weeks to discuss interventions in the progress. English department will implement a proposed action plan for spring 2020 in a consistent manner for it to be effective. To segregate data from formative assessments to determine success. Collaborating with teachers and administrators to determine if interventions are effective or if other interventions need to be put in place to have a higher impact on student growth. Inform students of their progress every 3 weeks and have them set goals for the next meeting. Provide professional development sessions and planning days for teachers as a department when necessary and possible. And then of course check the end of year progress and determine if CIP goal was met, what was and was not effective, and use these data for the development of next year's CIP's goals. Some of these bullet points we're going to be doing as a department. The other ones we're going to be doing, I'm going to be helping administration just to see when they review the CIP, if they met the goal or not. Sorry guys. Sorry. And then I printed out the action plan. I have it here, but you guys also have it. So of course it's spring 2020, target course subject English and charts, English 2, the measurable improvement goal. So we have to have a SMART goal. During spring 2020, this semester, right? 75% of all students will pass the English 2 examination with a minimum score of approaches. To achieve this goal, students will demonstrate student progress in formative assessments known as CFAs until the date of the state examination, which we have in March, April? I think March, April, I have to check again. So targeted participants, the action plan has been designed to address the deficiencies identified in the student assessment scores, which include the December EOC scores and ongoing formative assessments. So interventions such as like the summative, and then right now we're going to go individually. After reviewing the data, interventions for implementation was focused primarily on reading comprehension, critical thinking skills, and writing persuasively with a sustained and targeted focus on reading comprehension of fictional passages. So one of the things that the English instructional specialist said when we met with her was that last December's score showed that we needed to improve on fiction. That's one of the ones that they didn't really know. And I know last year it was informational passages, and so when we were doing articles of the week, we were just doing information so that they got that. And then now this one, they went down in fiction. And so now we have to balance it out, which we'll talk about it right now. So now it's fiction, not informational. So interventions will be a combination of technological resources, workbooks, and tutorials that target reading comprehension, academic vocabulary, critical analysis, and organized writing. Resources adopted by the school, such as Nearpod, Language Live, Series, Measuring Up, and free resources like Common Lit, Newsella, and Opening will help build reading comprehension, academic vocabulary, fluency, writing, and other targeted skills. So these resources, with a combination of strategies such as learning centers, blitzes, tutorials, pullouts, will increase student opportunities for student growth and student achievement in assessments. And so to evaluate how effective we are, these are some of the things we're going to be doing. So goals will be measured utilizing disaggregated data results from weekly classroom formative assessments given through Common Lit or articles of the week. In addition, the goals will be measured via formative assessment known as CFAs, which are administered every 3 weeks. School instructional leaders and teachers will monitor and support implementation of interventions to just make sure that you're being consistent. Evaluation of effectiveness will be determined in data provided by formative assessment given every 3 weeks and the STAR English 2 exam. There will also be formal and informal observations of teachers implementing these strategies and interventions to evaluate effectiveness of interventions, chosen activities, and individual teachers' responses, as well as attitudes to provide feedback. And of course, the time frame for implementation would be spring 2020. Since spring 2020 English 2 classes have already started, there is an urgency in implementing the action plan and training teachers effectively immediately. Furthermore, monitoring and trainings will be ongoing throughout the semester spring 2020. At the end of the semester, there will be an analysis to check effectiveness of the action plan. So one of the strategies is meeting of professionals with disaggregated data. And so school leaders and teachers will meet to discuss disaggregated data and review identified achievement gaps, root cause analysis, and proposed interventions/activities. Stakeholders will approve or amend the tentative proposal. So that's one of the strategies which of course we're doing now and we did already previously so that you guys just have the information. Targeted students will be all students taking English 2 during spring 2020. Who monitors principal, assistant principal. Resources include disaggregated data from December STAR scores and CFA 1. Of course, now we have CFA 2. And so the time frame will be from January all the way until the semester ends. An evaluation would be stakeholders will use this meeting to finalize proposals for action plan by accepting or amending proposal, which will create stakeholder buy-in. Survey will be conducted at the end of every session that will happen in the semester for teachers to provide feedback. We also have serious workbooks. Serious workbooks will be used for remediation purposes for both reading and writing skills, since it provides targeted practices for each area. Serious workbooks will be used a minimum of 3 times a week for greater impact and student achievement. So once again, all students taking English 2 during spring 2020, principal, assistant principal, and English teacher will monitor. Serious workbooks and dictionaries will be some of the resources. Of course, January all the way to the end of the semester. English teachers will utilize the effectiveness of serious workbooks in weekly assignments, especially formative assessments given every 3 weeks. Assistant principal and intern will conduct observations to evaluate the implementation of the workbook. And then, of course, the spring English 2 star data will show if it was effective or not, but we need to change. And I just have a sample here, something really quick. So the serious workbooks, so there's for reading and then writing, and they're consumables, so the kids can write on it and the kids can use it, but hopefully not abuse it, and you guys can you guys can actually, make copies or not, it's just up to you. But you guys will get those books shortly. And then articles of the week, which we were talking about last year, we did articles of the week where we focused on informational, and now what we're trying to do is we're gonna be alternating. So 1 week will be informational, and then 1 week will be fictional. And so I know that the English 2 teachers and the English 4 teachers have already implemented this. And so that's going to be a consistent thing for the kids. So when they go to English 3, they'll see it. When they go to English 4, they'll see it, and they've seen it in every single class. So there's no excuse as to, I don't understand, what are we doing? So English teachers will implement articles of the week, which will require students to read, annotate, and analyze the article. In addition, students will define and utilize vocabulary in writing, answer checkpoints set in the articles, analyze quotes, write a persuasive reflection of the article. And as they work on the article all week, students will be working on our targeted areas. So every day you could do it as a grammar warm-up, you could do 20 minutes, you could do a whole day, it's up to you, but the whole purpose is that the kid sees the article every single day for a whole week, so that they're going back to the reading, that they're reading once again if they forgot, and they're working on every single part, and maybe even more. And so the only thing that will change every week is, again, the genre. 1 week will be fiction, 1 will be informational. So all students will be taking English 2 during spring 2020. The principal, assistant principal, and of course you guys, the English teacher. And then we can get them from Common Lit, Newsella, New York Times, the computer. We're going to use the computer cards, dictionaries, 26 line paper for their section. That way they already see that structure, they get used to 26 lines, January to ongoing. English teachers will utilize formative assessments given every 3 weeks to assess the effectiveness of articles of the week. In addition, teachers will give weekly quizzes based on the article. Assistant principal and intern will conduct observations to evaluate implementation of the workbook. Spring English 2 start once again to check if we did good or not. The no writing will be emphasis on writing. Now, of course, you could use it for grammar because there's so many things they have for grammar. But we also have writing, argumentative, and even expository writing on it. So as a free writing tool, teachers will implement this online program to assign persuasive essays to students, varying on the votes from guided writing to independent practice. So of course, this will be used a minimum of once a week. So all students will use it. Principal and assistant principal will be the ones observing. You're going to use computer cards, graphic organizers, thinking map, writing utensils, and the essay prompt. You have from January all the way until the end of the semester. The program will evaluate the student's writing. The teacher will download and print the report to determine students' progress and plan accordingly. Sorry, guys. And assistant principal and intern will determine if this is effective by applying a monthly report from the program. And then, of course, if we like it, we're gonna see if we can get the license for no reading, so that we have all the standards. And then, of course, teachers and school leaders will determine effectiveness also through formative assessments or CFAs in the spring English 2 star. We have ongoing collaborative planning, so hopefully we continue to plan not just English 2 teachers, English 3 teachers, and English 4 teachers, but from English 2 to English 4. After reviewing initial data and the data from each formative assessment, it is imperative teachers meet to determine effectiveness of strategies and interventions, as well as to amend actions. School leaders should be present to assist them and monitor students' progress. So we can still change the action plan. If, let's say, in 3 weeks you don't like something, we'll just change it. If in 6 weeks you don't like something, we'll just change it. All students taking English 2 during spring 2020 Principal and assistant principal will be the ones that monitor this. Then of course, we're gonna look at December English 2-star scores, CFA scores, programs, data reports like we already, the root cause analysis documents, action plans, CAP, lesson plans, computer, and cards. January to ongoing, so formative assessments in spring English 2 will determine if action plan and collaborative plan work. Principal and assistant principal will be present to observe and assist teachers planning, utilizing the data and available resources. Principal and assistant principal will also review lesson plans submitted by teachers, and there's going to be a survey to see if you like it or not. And then the last one will be blitzes. There will be a minimum of 1 blitz per month until the English 2-star exam is administered. All students, of course, taking English 2, principal and assistant principal, and the English teachers. And we're going to use CFAs, data, scores, computer cards, access to the library, resources such as Sirius, Common Lake News, Ella. This was starting from February all the way to the end of the semester. Formative assessment in spring English 2 EOC will demonstrate the effectiveness or ineffectiveness of the blitzes, since each blitz will focus on different categories from the examination and different teams. And then the last one, so the evaluation of the action plan is just administrators. But towards the end of the school year, the committee will evaluate the effectiveness of the action plan and recommend changes for the next school year. And of course, principal, assistant principal, and this just depends on the scores, and they're going to do that, and I'm going to assist them with that. That's going to be until May, so we get the actual scores. And then really quick, we're going to have the student growth tracker. So as we're going to give you this, there's going to be 2 different as a class and individually. So the overall class, we're going to have the student name. So what are their really weak in the standards? What are their interventions for that specific student? What is the previous score if it's a retester? And then of course, December score if it's a newcomer. CFA 1, CFA 2, benchmark CFA 3, just so that to see if there's progress or not. And if it's a regression, but what did we do wrong with that kid, or what did happen with that kid? And then the individual one. So once again, name of the student, weak standards, interventions, previous scores, benchmark. And this is for them. You're going to put the scores, and they're going to chart themselves. So if they have, for example, a 10, 20, all the way to 100, the kid has to make their own little bar graph. So I got a 10, but now I have a 30, now I have a 50. Or if I went from an 80 all the way to a 50, they're going to go down. So it's more like a visual representation for them to see that this is what I'm doing, and hopefully it's going to make them see that this is just wrong. And this is the last one. And then of course we have the last one, which is the committee members. So Ms. Solis, the assistant principal who's helping us, the English instruction specialist, Ms. Carla Saavedra, and the English department, which are you guys. So, do you have any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions? No? No? Okay. Thank you, guys. I don't know if there's any questions.
Can you go back to the scores? It was like towards the beginning of the PowerPoint.
The scores,
Was that based on this previous years or?
the SPED and the...
Yes.
let me just go back to it. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was writing it down, but I didn't get to get all of it.
Let me, I think I lost it.
There.
Okay. So this is just the 2018, 2019. I know there's a root cause analysis. So in other words, there's the 3-year progression, but I only focus on last year. So once again, the ELA for 2019, the star performance would be 52% for approaches, and then 30% for meets, and then 2% for masters. Now this is just the general population, and then for SPED or special ed. So I know that, like I was talking right now, a lot of the things we're going to be doing is for the general population, but we could focus more on the SPED population. And so I know I had talked already with Ms. Belma Garcia, who's one of our English teachers that has the class. And so she's also going to have another training for you guys pretty soon, and she's going to try to give you strategies for them. Because we had 13% for approaches, 8% for meet, and then 4% for masters. And so we need to increase that. I know right now one of the things she's doing is novels, but I know she had mentioned that she does them differently than how we do it. of course, we have faster paced, but I know she's using other strategies, and so she's going to talk about that with you guys. I know that one of the things that they had talked in one of the administration is if we don't increase the spec percentages and the LEP percentages, we're gonna go to a tier 4. And so the tier 4 campus is when the state intervenes, and we're gonna have trainings every single Saturday from the beginning of the school year to the end of the school year. They're gonna come and we're gonna have to stay longer. So I know right now our last class, we leave at 4:45, I'm sorry, but we would stay until like 5 or 6. And one of the things I did ask is, are we getting paid for that time? And they said yes. So we do get paid all the way until like 6, for example, but we have to increase these 2 scores specifically so that we don't go into a tier 4. So that's where the state comes in once again. We have those trainings every Saturday, we stay longer, and they come to our meetings and they come to our classes. So they alternate. Now for that, I don't know if it's going to be only 1 or 2 people or more, but I do know that they're constantly in the classroom and they're checking everything from core classes to elective classes. So, and they want to check consistency. And so that's part of our evaluation. And they check, are your lesson plans here? Why are you not doing this? Where are your accommodations? And they'll go randomly and they'll ask, okay, they take out where's your binder? So you have to have a SPED and a left binder. And so then they'll go, okay, like who is Pachito? Okay, what are his accommodations? And so you have to know them on the top of your head. Like, okay, he needs extra time, he needs graphic organizer, he needs 30 minutes content mastery twice a week, etc. And so we are trying to avoid all of that by hopefully increasing our scores. So even though we're a B-rated campus, they're still giving us the red flags on special populations, not just SPED, but LEP. If we don't increase those 2, especially in the English department, we're gonna enter tier 4. So it could still be a B campus, but tier 4, and we don't want that. And then of course the LEP and the approaches is 22%, and then of course the masters is 5%, and there is 0 LEP masters. And so we have to increase also that. So we're gonna talk with Ms. Covarrubias once again. She's gonna come and continue her trainings, just like we had discussed in previous trainings. She's gonna continue helping us with our LEP kids. So I just want you to understand that for ESOL, which is the LEP kids in those classes, they can only be there a year, which is ESOL 1, ESOL 2. Even if they fail ESOL 1 and 2, they have to take the class again, but they can't take the ESOL 1 class. That's just how they have it. So then, if the kid fails and they already did those classes in the first year, the second year now we have them. As an English 2 teacher, they don't have it. For example, English 1, engineering, right? But as an English 2 teacher, now I have a LEP kid who just came here, has only 1 year of experience, right? And now I have to implement all those LEP accommodations. And so we also have to learn what are some strategies that she's doing that hopefully can help us. For example, the total physical response strategy. So one of the things that they learn is it's not just, okay, here's 10 words and learn the words and hear the definition and that's it. Realistically speaking, research says that we don't retain, out of those 10 words, maybe 3 words that we actually learn. And so the total physical response is, okay, yes, you learned the words, here's the vocabulary, but now you're telling them to do something. Maybe they're acting it out. Maybe you're ordering them to do something in English and now they have to do it. Like go and get, let's say one of the vocabulary words is, I don't know, the door. And so now I give them a command, open the door. And so that hopefully the kid will know, es la puerta. Now I have to go and open the door. But are there any questions?
I see there the difference between San Luis and the state of Texas.
Yes. So if you see over here, yes. I know we have algebra, biology, but I'm going to focus on that. Is there's the English 1 approaches. So San Benito right now is at a 28, and then the state of Texas is at a 20, so the difference is 8%. So we are doing good. We're doing really good, but still not enough. We still need to improve more. Yes. So it's our subpopulations which we're discussing right now. Because generally speaking, the kids that are not left, that are not SPED, they're doing great, but we have to focus also on these. And then of course English 2, there's a 64 in San Benito and a 56 on the state of Texas, where there's a difference of 8, which of course we're doing good, but we still have to increase more once again on the special populations. So, any more questions?
So the chart, the self-growth chart, it's every 3 weeks, and you can track them?
Yes, every 3 weeks, you know. So this of course would be yours as a teacher, so you have them and you'll just be looking into one. But for this one, it's gonna be every 3 weeks. So the student, you keep it right, or the student, but the student will, every 3 weeks you have a CFA or the benchmark, you're gonna give them the scores, you're gonna review it, right? And then they have to put it, but they have to chart it. And so you keep it. So,
Do you know when we're doing benchmarks?
no, I know we have the exam on April. So I know we had CFA 1, 2, which we already have. So like in 3 weeks in March. So in about 3 weeks. Exactly. So instead of CFA number 3 would be the benchmark, and then from there. So anything else? So thank you guys.
Thank you.